Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to What Do You Say Anime. I'm your host, Peter. On today's episode, we will be reviewing the recently wrapped up Spring 2023 anime lineup. Warning, ahead there will be spoilers for the shows that we are talking about, so in the description below there will be timestamps for each show we are reviewing. Second warning, this episode is probably going to be very positive, so if you hate being positive, this probably be the episode for you. Joining
Why'd
me
you invite
on...
me?
What?
Why'd you invite me then?
Oh, so it's like the yin and yang. I gotta have some contrast.
Weak, strong.
Join me on our adventure today. We have Sick Miles and Healthy Jay. Gentlemen, how are we doing today?
Healthy.
You look healthy.
Thank you. What about you, Miles? Sick?
I'm great. I've never been better. Everyone is expecting,
I'm well rested. I got like 10 hours of sleep.
I'm gonna bring the energy today.
I'm gonna work out later, probably.
Hell yeah. Love to see it.
I'm going to fall asleep as soon as we're done recording this, and a little behind baseball. This is about 3 p.m. my time.
Yes. Hopefully you get your
you
nap
just
in
mixed
afterwards.
inside baseball and behind the scenes.
Yep.
Instead behind base. Okay. That's fair.
I say behind baseball.
Yeah. I think that's the name of like a character in Death Note.
Behind
baseball.
We're doing great today.
Yeah, as you can see, Miles is a little loopy and Jay is on point. Gentlemen, let's jump into our first show that we are reviewing, the highly anticipated show from when we previewed it, one of our favorites, and by ours, I mean me and Miles, and we are reviewing Oshinoko.
Also, Jay enjoys it.
Jay enjoys it. Me and Miles, I think, are a little higher than Jay on it, but Jay is also a reader of the manga.
Not a hater. That's
not a
what
hater.
matters.
Yeah. And I'll say, me and Miles are just on like another level in terms of how intrigued and how like into
you guys are stans.
Yes,
I am a fan.
Yes, and unfortunately, Miles is a Ruby shipper.
I've come full circle on it. Fuck it, let's watch it burn down, baby.
Just terrible. But that being said, we got the first season. Second season has been announced. Had my concerns coming into it with Doga Koba at the helm, doing this as they have been only really doing mediocre to average anime, and I think that this was sort of like their shining moment in terms of kind of elevating themselves as a studio going forward. I hope to see them continue this level of productions and other anime properties that they pick up. I thought they did a fantastic adaptation of this story just from what we got. It sets it up for the, what's it called? Tokyo Blade arc, the stage play arc, which was great. Throughout the entire series, though, I thought that this was just really well done. Just starting with the OP, Idol is like the biggest anime opening maybe ever, according to like charts. I think that show, or that OP, has just taken the world by storm, now to the point where it's a little annoying hearing it everywhere. But that being said, yeah, just really a really great adaptation of this first part of Oshinoko. I'm really happy with how everything turned out. The voice actors, the characters, all that jazz was great. Jay, what were your thoughts on the first season of Oshinoko?
So, I think I mirrored your hesitation whenever I heard about Doga Kobo being the ones in charge of the adaptation, as well as like pretty much anybody I think who was pretty familiar with Doga Kobo. They do not have the greatest track record, but they knocked it out of the park with this. I did say whenever we were previewing it, I did not think that everything was going to be to the level of the preview that we saw, which was the first episode. And I think it's safe to say that I was correct about that. There were definitely a few spots where the CG use in the character models was a bit wonky for me, specifically with Aqua's character model sometimes and his hair. And that was a complaint I had from the start too, by the way. I thought his hair was going to be wonky, and it was. But other than that, everything else was pretty much on point in my opinion. The voice acting, incredible. Like, they got Ri Takahashi to do I for like an hour or something like that. It was awesome. And she did great. And then the leads, very solid in my opinion. The whoever's playing Aqua, I don't know the seiyu's name off the top of my head, but he's making
Takeo
Aqua
Utsuka.
He's making Aqua just as much of a fucking like creepy dweeb as I want him to be, and that's great. I need people to not come incorrectly with it. Aqua is not cool. He is a fucking he is an off-putting, weird child. Yeah, I don't know. Like the attention to detail that Dogakobo went into really just kind of I hope that they can keep it up with their next series because they really elevated it with like how they do like the eyes and stuff in this adaptation, in my opinion. They really Oshinoko was one of those where when we read it, I think that I probably said in the review like this being in color would elevate it based on just like the volume covers and stuff like that. And I think that this adaptation kind of proves that. During the mid-season review, I did mention that I think that they could have done a little bit more with the OST in general. Like amazing OP and ED aside, I think that they didn't really do a whole lot with music in this show, which is kind of disappointing considering, you know, the themes and setting of the show. So that, like, the wonky CGI at points for Aqua and the lack of kind of utilizing the OST are more or less my main complaints with it. Everything else, though, like, it's a pretty good adaptation overall. I think that we can all agree that they should have held a little bit more time on the Your Star scene.
Yeah, they
Because
should have.
that is. It's like a full double spread in the manga. And I think for some important moments like that, you should really just. Like, that should have been like a key moment in the series, you know, like right up there with like the stuff from the first episode with in my opinion. So like solid adaptation overall, like very good. There's a few things that I wish they would have done better though, which I know it's just kind of like it's complaining about the breakout show of the season, but like I don't know, I just it could have been better in my opinion. It could have been even better is more of how I should phrase that. What do you think, Miles?
So, I mean, I think I definitely agree with some of those nitpicks, right? Like the sound design and everything, other than like when the ED goes, like when it goes into like every moment they had of that was like a
Yes.
1,000 out of 10. But I agree with that, but I don't think it really hurt my enjoyment at all because I was just so excited to see it done well. I actually had some hope with Dogakoba because like Shikimori, I think was like the last thing they did, and it looked really good. And it was just kind of boring because I think the story's kind of boring. And so I figured if they could really nail, you know, the adaptation of what's a good story, then, the how it looks would come across. I think they did like my favorite scene from this portion of the manga is when Akane comes in and like does the research and then has eyes when she like turns it on, because that was like really shocking to me because I was expecting it to do like the whole like no one can ever be sort of thing, but they go with the different route on that where it's like that whole like thing is like I's a liar. It's like a fabrication that Aqua has been falling for his entire life, and it's you know manufactured and able to be repeated. And like the way that they did that with like Into the ED and everything, I thought was phenomenal. Um, I think that I like the entire cast. The colors were great. I'm trying to think if there's anything that y'all haven't said. I think that one way that I think they elevated it was the social media team did like a really good job of putting out green screen like GIF versions of different like Kana eating the baking soda or the peon dances or just like meme moments that like you can promote the show with. And I think that really helps with like the community aspect of it, where we're watching something weekly and you get to like build sort of like a like I don't want to like boil it down to memes, but memes, right? There's like
Yeah,
a lot
yeah,
of
yeah.
memes coming out of like whatever, and it's like, oh, I liked this moment, and people also liked this moment, and that makes me feel good. Um, so I think it had like a lot of that coming for it, and so yeah, I don't know. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a wonderful adaptation. It was about as good as I could have hoped it would be, So I I'm very pleased with it.
Yeah, basically off like what Miles said, I do like the whole meme thing. The Kana eating the baking soda. Someone like added her to like a Formula One race, and her crawling on the floor going against F1 cars. Super fun. Getting into the rating of things of Oshinoko, obviously I'm in very, very, very biased towards this series. I love just how unique and how meta, or maybe not meta, but like how they kind of just dive into the entertainment world and construct a story while still making it like anime is something that I really gravitate towards in terms of stories. The anime did a great job at elevating this with the visuals. I agree with Jay with the OST. I did like it at the end when they did the Star T Rain and Our Sign is B song, but like that was really it in terms of like something that like stuck in my head in terms of OST, and I agree that they could have elevated it more throughout the story. I mean, but mostly for the positives. Episode 1 was incredible. I love how they adapted everything. I also really enjoyed what Miles said before, the Akane's eye scene. Also, when Aqua saves her from committing suicide, I thought that was really well done. They had that scene at the end where like they promoted like national suicide awareness, like the hotlines and stuff like that, where like if you need help, here's you can reach out, because Akane's backstory with that social media bullying is based off of a real person. And I thought that they just handled it kind of well. I think they could have done some things like behind the scenes with Hana's family before like really expressing that. But that being said, I loved Oshinoko with all my heart. I love the story. I thought Doga Kobo did a great job. I'm giving it a 10. I loved it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it quite a bit as well. Like, most of my complaints are pretty like small. I wouldn't really say they really detracted overall from my like enjoyment of the show. It's more of just like looking at ways that it could have elevated past where I already like it. So to be short and sweet with this review, because I don't really have a ton to add on to what I said in my like thoughts, I'm just gonna go ahead and give this a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, and for me, we've already mentioned how Pete and I are sucking at the. Anyways, to 10 out of 10. I'm a big fan.
2 10s and a 9 for Oshinoko.
Sakana!
Moving on to our next show, we have Vinland Saga Season 2. Miles is going to take a break while we discuss this. Lot of controversy to begin the series. I think the real ones stuck around and realized how great of a story this is. The big things that stuck out to me during this entire season, there was a few episodes in general. Episode 3 is when we kind of get the first real nightmare of Thorfinn, and his voice actor just portraying that nightmare, that horror that he's gone through, was something that really stuck out to me. It was probably one of my, if not favorite, voice acting performances this year. He's definitely probably my lead for male voice actors. Just absolutely killed it this season. The introduction of Einar, I thought he was a fantastic supporting character. They devoted an entire episode towards his backstory in the beginning, which was kind of interesting because I think a lot of people thought that we were going to jump right into Thorfinn, and then we get a full episode 1 dedicated to Einar and sort of his journey of how he ended up with Thorfinn was fantastic. Episode 17 with I'm gonna slaughter her name, Arnheid.
Arnheid, yeah.
Arnheid. Just the tribulations and trials that she's went through as her being a slave, and finding like her husband is still alive after all of these years, and sort of just their journey of sort of coming back together through death, I guess I would put it, because her and her husband both pass away while they're on the farm, was just so great that like that's what they were longing for, was like the family getting back together. And unfortunately it's through death, but like I thought just how it was told through the storytelling was great. I thought the farmland arc itself was just a masterclass of storytelling through Canute. Just like what he's gone through, who he is as a person now, was fantastic. Man, I want to ramble forever. Snake was such a cool character to get added to this mercenary of like, I don't know if misfits the best word, but like all these people have kind of relinquished their names, and now they're animals, but like now they're a family. And so like that group together was so cool. Just how everything came together at the end with like this battle, but it's Thorfinn's like resolve of not wanting to be the person that he was before to solve this conflict was just so great. And I can't wait to see where the story progresses. Jay, tell me your thoughts on season 2 of Vinland Saga.
Yeah, so this is like a story where, like, how you guys have a bias for Oshi no Ko, like, my bias is definitely for Vinland Saga. I enjoyed it so much. Like, I went into this having already read this arc in the manga. I'm pretty close to current with the manga. I'm a couple chapters behind now just because the release schedule is a bit off sometimes due to it being monthly. But yeah, I already knew that this was going to be awesome and something that I enjoyed. But I knew that people were going to get turned off from the change in direction it had from season 1. And I'm glad that, both of us stuck around for it, obviously. I never in my mind thought that you would drop it because there was less fighting or something, because, yeah, that's it. If people want to do it, whatever. I just know we wouldn't do it. And I know Miles is deafened, but I'm pretty sure he's not the type of person where that's going to be something I worry about from him either. The introduction of Einar, amazing. I love that guy. I think that, like, he is just the type of character that Thorfinn, like, needed at that. Like, that changed his character arc forever and gave him, like, that seed. Like, it's really poetic because Einar is, like, a farmer, and that's his thing, is he loves to, like, cultivate. And he basically, like, cultivated Thorfinn
Oh
into
yeah,
who he is
that's a
now,
good way to
and
put it.
grew him into the person he is now in a way.
Grooming, but good.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, more or less.
Yeah.
Like, also another character that you didn't mention that was a real one, Sverkel, the old master.
Oh, yeah.
That guy was awesome. Like, just his whole arc with, like, helping Arnheid and her husband, like, attempt to get away and giving them, like, the horses and the cart and all of that. I just loved it. Like, it really was, like, a season that showed, like, the beauty of, like, solidarity in general, in my opinion. Like, it showed, like, that really what it comes down to is that you need solidarity with the people around you, or else, like, outside forces can come and, like, just fuck you up. And that's what happened at the climax of it. There wasn't, like, complete solidarity because of, like, Thorgil getting involved and stuff like that. And so they were just getting utterly demolished by the Yams Vikings, who are, like, a fucking faceless, efficient unit that just kills and pillages. And also, fuck Floki. I'm glad Thorfinn could see his ass. I do agree with you that seeing, like, the change in Canute was awesome. The voice actors, like you said, just knocking it out of the park. Thorfinn, Canute, just everybody reprising their roles. Like, it was just super fun. Yeah, I don't know. I could just gush forever about this. It feels like there's very little about this that wasn't done well. Like, there was a few episodes that were kind of slow, but I'm the type of person where I kind of enjoy, like, the historical slice of life stuff and, like, seeing the process, so that didn't really affect it all too much for me. Should we move on to our closing thoughts?
Yeah. Yeah, let's
Okay.
do it.
Yeah.
Didn't mention it earlier, but I thought they also did an incredible job doing two great OPs and EDs. I do think River and Without Love stood out, but
Yeah.
the second half I did enjoy the OP and ED as well. Just Without Love, when you have the context with the story, Without Love was just like an omega banger ED. It just put me in my feels. I think that's what they're trying to do with it, and they did a great job at doing that. Jay mentioned it earlier. I think there were some like directional things that were just incredible. The last fight, kind of how they changed the angles of how the fights were going on, was just like incredible work. Like, it was so well done and so cool to see that different type of angle in a fight. But just the whole story was just, I was intrigued every second of every minute that I was watching this story, where I think what season 1 did great was mixing the action with the story. This one was just almost entirely pure story, and when I'm hooked on the dialogue and nothing else, that says a lot to how good the writing is. This is by far my anime of the year. It's not even close. This was one of the best sequels I've ever seen, period. I don't know if I have like a list in front of me, but it's pretty close to like Main Abyss season 2 levels for me, which is really, really high. I bumped this from my number 19 to number 13 show of all time. I loved it. It was everything I wanted and more. Easy 10. One of the easiest 10s I've ever had in my entire life.
Yeah, I just gotta agree with everything you said as well. It feels like when we were discussing Vinland Saga as it was coming out weekly, there was like 4 or even 5 times where we would say, dang, that might have been like episode of the year.
Yeah, yeah.
Like episode 17, I remember that coming out.
That's mine.
And then every episode after that is just a banger after banger after banger. Like, it was just amazing. The directing, Shuhei Yabuta, just truly incredible with that. I'm excited to see like everything that he does after this as well. Like, I'm excited to see the 3rd season that was officially announced. That's going to be awesome. Going to get some of the best characters, in my opinion, introduced then. I was a little bit sad that we didn't get like a little preview of the next season like they did at the end of the first season, but hey, you know, I'll take what I can get.
Yep.
Like Pete said, this is probably like this is the easiest 10 I've ever given, honestly. I like pretty much I knew the floor of it was like a high 9 for me personally going in, so like yeah, 10 easily.
Awesome. Yep. 2 10s for me and Jay. You'll be hearing us talk about this more probably during the Anime of the Year episode, but yeah, just an incredible piece of work.
Sakana!
Moving on to our next property that we'll be talking about, Hell's Paradise, Mappa's other story that they did this season. The big thing for me, I guess, with Hell's Paradise is kind of like the Twitter backlash when people were complaining about the production value of this, which I didn't personally see. I thought this was like pretty well done. Like, yeah, I know it's Mappa, but I don't know if they expected the world, but even stuff like Attack on Titan had pretty big production issues that I thought were more glaring than what I saw in Hell's Paradise. They did one of the best things that I love that in like these type of stories that Shonen normally doesn't do, but they did a great job, is giving me a convincing threat where at any time I feel like somebody could get murked. And I think that was just a great addition to the story. I love the tension that it built throughout, along with just a really great cast of characters. Props to also like the character design to this. I thought that was one of the best from this year. I loved how people looked. Like Yuzuhara was great. The blind Asuman, I really like his character. And then my boy Tenza, R.I.P. I really enjoyed his like whole character thing. I thought just like the cast was great, and sort of like the twist at the end that maybe smarter people saw coming. I didn't personally see coming with like Gabimaru in this like brainwash type of like really being influenced by his elders to do this thing when it's not actually happened. I just love the story. I love the action. The fights were great. My only real concern was in like the last like episode like 9, 10, 11 when Toe got introduced. It kind of felt like everybody knew what Toe was all at the same time, which was a little confusing for me, where it's kind of never really mentioned earlier in the story. And then it's like Yuzuhara's like, oh yeah, in my village it's called like Ki or something like that. It's like I feel like that should have been mentioned in the past or something like that, where like it's like to me it's just like comparing it to Nen, where I like how Nen was introduced and explained to us, and Toe wasn't that level, and I feel like they're kind of trying to do something like with Nen, but
it's sorry. As somewhat, I just wanted to say to kind of put people's expectations where they should be. Tau is not like a power system that is going. It's not meant to be an in-depth power system like Nen or Chakra or something like that. It's just like it's Ki in Dragon Ball. It's energy.
Yep.
It's not like I have a special Tau that and it manifests this way or something like that. It's not. It's a pretty simple power system.
Yeah.
It's yeah.
that's
why Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna
Sorry.
say, I guess it's more of just like how it was introduced and how the cast kind of like acknowledged it was
I feel like that kind of plays into the fact that like this like the whole island is like an amalgamation of different cultures and stuff,
100%. Yep.
you know.
Oh
I
yeah.
do understand what you mean though. It could have been paced better for
Yeah.
sure.
But
Yeah.
I'm like overwhelmingly positive on this. I loved Gabimaru sort of as like the main, but at the same time, I feel like we have maybe 2 or 3 main leads with this story kind of interweaving. Big fan of that. I mentioned the character design. This is just like really fun. This is like the type of shonen that I really gravitate toward. I like this more than like the Black Clovers, the My Heroes, the Demon Slayers. This to me was kind of like taking that type of battle shonen and elevating it with um better, I think, like just a great cast, fun animations, the world that they're in as well was just great. The monsters were like terrifying. Like the bugs with faces, that's so cool. I'm gonna pass over to Jay. He's a source reader, but yeah, huge positives for me.
Yeah, so honestly, like going into this, I didn't really have huge expectations. I actually was getting kind of like uh nervous as it got closer to being released because I was like, man, I hope that it's done at least somewhat well so people don't just like, you know, hate the anime and they don't want to see like the source read the source material or whatever. But I was pretty pleasantly surprised. Like it had moments of popping off for sure. Definitely some production gaffes. Um, so I understand why people brought those up. But I think overall, like you said, it AOT and stuff like that, like Mappa's other works, they tend to have at least some kind of production gaps every now and then. Unfortunately, like that's just big studio problems. I think is that you have like variable quality.
Mm-hmm.
And like I think with Hell's Paradise, the writing for some of it was kind of on the wall with the trailer having like a ton of like random key animators who didn't have it like weren't really big names and stuff like that. Like I said, I was pretty pleasantly surprised by this. I think that the voice cast really knocked it out of the park. Like everybody was really trying their hardest. Story was adapted pretty well overall, in my opinion. They didn't really like skip out on anything. Hell's Paradise is pretty fast paced. It's only like 120 chapters overall. I think we got to like 40 or 50 or something like that. So we should have. I think by the end of the next core or season, it should be done. Um, Overall, like I wanted a bit better for this series, but you know, I was being realistic with myself after I saw the trailer and looked into it and everything. So, yeah, like I think that if you enjoyed this, then maybe you should just go read the manga. In my opinion, like the manga is just better. But I'll still be watching the second season. Like, but yeah, it's definitely not in contention for anime of the year for me, unfortunately, which is a shame. Miles, what about you?
Yeah. So is someone who didn't read the source material and had no expectations for this going in? I mean, I really liked it. I think the setting is just like really cool. Like the island is so cool, and I always like a location as an antagonist sort of style of show. Like I think that's like a neat idea. Like I hope going forward they don't explain too much about the island. I hope it always stays, you know, mysterious. Like you can explain some of it, of course, but like, I hope it's not like broken down entirely because I just think it's neat that things like that can exist. It makes the world feel fantastical. I like Pete, like that, like sort of twist at the end with Gabby Maru's wife. I thought that was really neat. Didn't see that coming. The characters are all a lot of fun. I got attached to them, but you're always worried that someone could die because the setting is so deadly. I'm excited to, I guess, either finish it up by reading or wait until like the second season is coming. But it's something that I plan on continuing, one way or the other. I definitely did notice some production issues, but they also took like a gap week, and like I thought a lot of it got shored up after that, later on in the series, they started when they were explaining Tao. My only issue with that is that like they explained it like mid-fight, and that's one of my like least favorite tropes when like they introduce a thing. It's like it gets explained while it's getting used. I would prefer it happen like after a confrontation or something. Like if people were going back over what happened, that's obviously like a very minor thing, but to me, it's just always weird to see people just standing there when they're supposed to be trying to kill each other, like just like actively try to kill each other, and then think about what's happening.
Yeah, in the last fight, it was kind of funny how they would have like a moment where like they would just sit and talk to each other for like 10 seconds while this like chimera plant
Yeah,
is in the background, just letting them do it. Like, I guess talking is a free action, but come on.
yeah, true. But you're supposed to keep it short, you know.
Yeah.
That's just on the DM of this story to tighten that up a little bit. Um, it's like that. The fat guy realized his feelings in the middle of that fight and had like a really long flashback or whatever.
Hey, that
Which
was awesome, though.
I
Loved
loved
that.
Yuzuriha like just punching the pile of heads and then like dancing around with an umbrella as decapitated heads fell everywhere. It felt fitting for her character.
Fair.
Um, she's gonna be the anime Harley Quinn for
I
next.
was literally just thinking that. You read my mind.
She gets to do that for the next, like whatever season and a half or whatever it is until
Can you imagine if Harley Quinn was also a slime girl?
that would be crazy.
What state the world would be in right now?
And also, honestly, props to the whoever directed it to be a like white, opaque liquid. Truly the pinnacle of a design decision. It could have been
Yeah,
any color,
smart.
but
Smart of them.
it was cum. But yeah, I don't know. I really liked it. I'm looking forward to it. I think for me, uh, it was like the surprise of the season, and like not because like the source material isn't great or anything. It's just like not my normal jam, and so it like was my jam, and so I was excited to watch it.
Did you guys watch the after credit scene in the last episode?
Yep.
What happens? Oh yes, where the guy's getting shipped out, right? To like
Yes.
yes,
Yeah.
I did. Yeah, okay.
You guys will either love or hate the guy they showed, Shugen. You will either love or hate him. I don't know which. It's very
Okay.
concerning.
I have a feeling that I'll hate him and Miles will think he's based. That's usually what
Miles,
happens.
honestly, Miles probably will think he's based thinking about it.
Oh, cool. Can't wait.
Going into our ratings, love the cast, love the characters. The OP was super fun as well. Well, I know we didn't talk about that, but I thought it was a really good OP. I thought it was just like a great first installment to the series. I'm just solid 8. It's a very solid 8. I think it has the possibility of probably being like a solid 9 when it's all said and done.
Yeah. To give a like quick spoiler of my score, an 8 is also where I fall on it, and I think I gave the source material a 9. Yeah, I think that if they can get like the production down for the second season and like maybe put like a big name director or something on it, like I think like a good director would really make like a really good director would really make the difference for this show. And Mappa has him. Like imagine if Shuhei Yubuta was on this. Like I don't want to take him away from Vinland Saga, but like just imagine a world where he's doing that. Like that would have been crazy. Like there's this eye catch scene in the OP that always caught me. It was when Gabby Maro was like on top of the like pyre and he like arches his back and like catches on fire.
Mm-hmm.
Like if we had like that quality animation the whole time, easy 9. Maybe even a 10 for me as someone who's biased towards the source material. But I can't like if I were to give this a 9 or a 10 with the production issues, like I would be a fraud. I'm not even gonna lie. I simply cannot look past it. So 8 out of 10 for me. Miles?
Yeah, I also have this as an 8 out of 10. I think that while I really liked it, there were like a couple of lulls here and there, which is fine. Nothing's perfect. And it fell into some like shonen tropes I'm not like the best fan of for a little bit before digging itself like away from them. But overall, I mean, I'm really excited about it. I'm excited to watch more. So 8 out of 10 for me.
Right on. That's 3-8.
魚
All right, next up we have Insomniacs After School. This was a show that I knew I was going to love. I just didn't know how much I was going to love it, and it turns out I am deeply, madly in love with it. After finishing the anime, I am fully caught up on the manga. This story, I think, started a little slow, but as the characters got more developed, I just fell in love with so much. Really like that they don't play into a lot of the tropes that I thought they were going to, where I thought it was going to be more them kind of like figuring out themselves more than like the romantic interest. But how they kind of blended the two together, I really fell in love with. I thought they had a few romantic things that I just thoroughly enjoyed. I love how they just talk to each other over like the radio. That thing while they're like one's working, the other one can like listen to the other person while they're awake at like 2 a.m. There's a really interesting way of conveying like kind of feelings, not necessarily for each other, but just in general with what they're thinking and what's going on at 2 a.m. Very Call the Night-esque since it's the same studio. I thought they did a great job at conveying these lights and stars and everything that happens at night while the ambiance is dark, the characters are bright. And I like that contrast between the two. Maguri is just like protect at all cost vibes. I loved her. With her and Nakami sort of like why they are Insomniacs was really well done too. Where it's not just they can't sleep. There's a reason behind it. And I felt like it was like a real reason. Nakami's abandonment issues with his mom leaving and Maguri with having a heart condition and sort of like the fear of dying while she's in her sleep was just a great addition to a story where I think it could have been cookie cutter and they made it not cookie cutter. Just I loved it. The supporting cast was really well done too as well. Mostly Maguri's friends, but Nakami has that one bro, Ukagawa. He's a good bro. I liked him a lot too, but the supporting cast was mostly Maguri's friends along with the old senpai who ran the club and the sensei who is the advisor. Just a really great cast. Loved it. Towards the end, honestly, probably one of my favorite confession scenes in anime. I loved it. I love how they portrayed their feelings throughout the entire story, but really cultivating that at the end with just letting out their emotions with each other was so well done. With, you know, Maguri's like, I want you to take a picture of me. I've never been so happy in my entire life. And I love that. It was so cute. It was so adorable. I love Nakami. I don't know if manning up is the right word, but sort of just like, I'm taking you, I'm stealing you, like from away from your parents. We'll deal with the consequences later. Love that like old school romantic trope of let's just run away together, but in like a more reasonable sense, I guess. They weren't going cross country; they were just going to take some pictures. I fucking love Insomniacs After School. Jay, what's your thoughts on Insomniacs?
Yeah, this was definitely another thing where I knew that I was going to enjoy this because I'm a big Call of the Night mark. I loved fucking Call of the Night last summer. Yeah, I don't know. This really hit the mark for me. I like both the OP and especially the ED quite a lot. Just a really sweet anime. Like I liked seeing the two main characters together. I thought that the supporting cast was like not really there all that much, but because of how strong Ganta and Isaki's relationship was, I didn't really mind it, honestly. Like I was mostly there for them. Like having Shiramaru there around too sometimes was pretty cool. Yeah, and plus, you know, there were two cute cats. Two. Like what am I like that's like worth at least 2 points by itself right there. All jokes aside, this was something that like really broke out for me. Really been making me consider how much romance media I should be consuming. Maybe a little bit more. Uh yeah, I like this a lot. What about you, Miles?
Yeah, so like, you know, I don't know if you're a longtime fan of the pod, um, you know that I really dig stargazing scenes. So, you know, I was in on this from the start. I also have a heart condition, so I was like, that's fun, little rep in the anime. Hers is way worse than mine though, so I don't know, but like it's still something that like when your heart doesn't work properly, it's like a spooky thing. So like I got that and like related to it and thought it was great. I loved all of the scenery. I loved just like the general melancholic, but I don't know, like hopeful sort of tone that it like had just like this entire time was great. I thought that everything about it I think added to its atmosphere in like a really good way. Like every scene did that. The chemistry between the main couple is like really really good. Which I like, and I liked that they had Gonta like he is kind of like the loser guy, but like in a kind of realistic way, not in like a it's not like overplayed at all. And like once he has the chance to, he like opens up and he actually does have some friends, and like it's like good vibes there. I'm excited to. I'll probably like read more of it to be
It's
honest.
on the Viz app.
Ooh, it's on the Viz app. Okay, Vizap.
Viz app.
So Vizap. So I will. I mean, I'll probably catch up on that. I think next, I guess. But I don't know. I loved everything about it. There was like a fireworks scene, which is also up there for me. It just was so atmospheric and enjoyable, and I can't wait for more in whatever method I choose to consume. So
Getting into our ratings, the only reason why I'm not giving this show a 10, I said from day one, if Magari dies, this show is a 0. It's kind of hinted a lot that she has this heart condition and can sort of maybe die at any time. I know that's like not the case, but it's kind of like that's the threat of her insomnia, and that's kind of like the threat behind kind of like who she is as a person too, where she's sort of like experiencing life for the things she wasn't able to do earlier because she was in the hospital so much. So uh I loved everything about this story. I loved the chemistry between the two. They're honestly probably one of my favorite anime couples ever. It just seems like they're meant to be. Where a lot of times I think like in romance anime, it's like they date and then they get married, but the connection that I feel towards the people isn't necessarily there. This I felt was there. Like they just seem so good. And minor spoilers for the manga, Nakami is a absolute Rizlord later, and just seeing his development as he opens up more is fantastic. It's so good, just great. I hope there's a second season. I thought there was like it's like rumored that it's getting one, but nothing is confirmed yet. But the manga is super easy to read if you're a fan of this. I read like 70 chapters in a night. It was an absolute breeze. I'm giving this show a very, very solid 9.
Yeah, for me, this show is pretty up there as well. I enjoyed it. Like maybe it's just like the genre as a whole, but there were definitely some slow points where I was cut like I had to stop it because I was kind of falling asleep because I was watching it late at night. I was like, I'll come back to this and maybe rewind it a bit. So that's like maybe that's just like my ADHD and like just like mixing with like romance as a genre and stuff like that, especially like a more shonen styled romance where it's like very much about like the chase and like the build up to that sort of confession and stuff like that, which I thought was done beautifully here. But yeah, I mean that's like a pretty minor complaint overall. The story was pretty excellent. I really enjoyed like the characterization of Gonta especially. Like I think that they did it really well with his backstory about like his mom leaving him as well as like his dad and stuff like that. Like the glimpses into both of their respective childhoods as well. I think that they were pretty like um well placed is how I would describe them. A lot of the times with flashbacks and shows, and this is something that Hell's Paradise actually kind of suffered from. It can feel like the flashbacks just kind of happen at you, and I think that they were done really like tastefully in this. So that's like a bonus for me in my opinion because anime kind of stumbles over flashbacks in my opinion sometimes. I think based on my overall enjoyment of the show, I was thinking about giving it an 8, and I think on Annie list it'll probably be like an 8.5 for me, but for the sake of this review I'm going to give it a 9.
Ooh. Yeah, I think part of like it is a bit sleepy, but like I guess like to me that's like that like is a desired effect of it because like so much of the like that comforting sort of slow pacing and stuff is like what I think our main characters are feeling like when they're together and they're able to just fall asleep and chat with each other and everything. So I sort of viewed, it's definitely not like, after every episode of anime we like a little bit, like at all in our Discord, we'll just be like banger ep, and it's like
Peak
I would say that
fiction.
I would say that about like Insomniacs, but like none of them are like bangers because
There's one.
they're
There's
okay.
actually
There's
two.
like there's maybe two bangers, but like a lot of them are more like atmospheric background music that makes you comfortable. It's like it's like that feeling when you sit in your favorite chair after work and you're just like, whew, like that's what I got from this. I think that oh God, I don't know. I have a hard time scoring
Coward.
that. Yeah, fuck you. I'm like looking at my like list of top stuff right now, and as far as like pure romance goes, like I think this is my favorite show. Something like Love is War would be higher for me, but like that's a lot of like comedic
Yeah.
elements and stuff where like this is just like the romance is like the whole package really. And it's like it's got some funny moments, but it's definitely like not attempting to. I think I'll give this a 10 because you know what?
Woo!
If I change my mind, I can change my mind.
Wow.
I'll never know.
Wow.
But I'll do it. Fuck it. 10.
Dude, I was so set on you like hovering like I was really hoping you would convince yourself into giving it a 9, but I was banking on you giving it an 8. And the fact
What?
that you gave it a 10, this is 4th of July levels fireworks for me right now. This is great.
Oh, this wasn't getting an 8. I think Galaxy actually like threatened me because at one point I was thinking about giving this an 8, but like the last couple of episodes, I think they did them getting together in like such a good natural way that like it really bumped it for me. But like he was like, if you give that show an 8 after you write multiple paragraphs about it every week, I will kill you. And I was like, okay, I'll give it.
Next up, we have Skip and Loafer. I knew that I was going to love this show. Another show where I didn't realize how much I was going to love it. They do one of my favorite things that I thoroughly enjoy in anime the most is when they take the drama element and don't shove it down my throat. I thought how they handled everything in the story was handled very well with care. Mitsumi as a main lead was a bundle of fun. She's probably my favorite female cast member from this season. 1 or 2. Actually, she's 2. I know what my number 1 is. And just like a great, I guess, different type of school storytelling that we're not shown as much. I feel like the drama element when it comes to school and a lot of anime is like really heavily drama focused. And this seemed like a great mix of everything combined. There was like lighthearted comedy. There was some possible romantic implications throughout the story. There were some other just great drama things with like Shima being the child actor and sort of having this controversy in his past with underage drinking. I thought that was handled pretty well. The cast itself was fantastic. Shima and Mitsumi as the main leads were great. Kind of the coming together of Mitsumi's friend group was interesting as well because we kind of have 4 people who maybe you wouldn't think would be in a friend group, but that's what makes their friend group so great. And we sort of had like these backgrounds as well with these characters, with Yuzuki sort of falling into place with her role as being like the hot girl and just not really belonging when it feels like she should. Like she didn't like being in like the popular group and like what those people were talking about. Like that wasn't her style, but because of her looks, she got attention from like everybody. So I thought that was really interesting. Mika with her troubles of, yeah, I know Mika stand up, right? Her sort of having to try harder to be in the position that she's in, I thought was handled really well because I think it's like a testament at that time of your age where you need to feel like you want to be popular. Like you want to be cool. In order to be cool, you have to act cool and do all these cool things. That's what all the cool kids are doing. And I think like throughout the story, she kind of fell into a place where she didn't need to do that to be into where she actually wanted to be. And I thought that was really well done. And her like random friendship with Now, sort of like coming together as like a, I don't know, looking out for Mitsumi a little bit was really fun. Fumi as like her best friend across like state lines or whatever was really interesting. When like, she got a boyfriend and Mitsumi kind of like perked up. That was great. I love that whole cast. This is another anime where as soon as it finished, I read all of the manga. I'm fully caught up. It's fun to see where the story went from here. I don't think this is getting a second season. I would love to if it did. Yeah, so I posted an infograph this after the animes that aired this season. Skip and Loafer sold the 7th most copies. So that's a good sign. It sold 185,000 copies since the anime has been released. I don't know if that's enough for a second season, but it's nice to see that it outsold some of the other properties that I would have expected to see on this list. Just a great story. I really enjoy it. Jay, what are your thoughts on Skip and Loafer?
I really enjoyed this as well. I think this was probably my favorite out of the romances in this season. Although, honestly, not a ton of romance really going on in this season. Like, it is, the signs are there. And I kind of like the fact that it's like low key in a slow burn like that, honestly. Some people probably don't, but I do. The cast in this one was amazing. Legitimately really strong. Like all of the supporting characters, like even the like tertiary supporting characters like Shima's friend Chris and stuff like that are really strong in my opinion. I really like there was a lot of like show don't tell with the characters in this in my opinion where they don't have to do like all right, here's Makoto's backstory or here's like Mika's backstory or something. Like the way that their characters are is informed by what they do and how they are written rather than like a flashback or like character statements about them. And that's like kind of rare in these sorts of like more male oriented romances in my opinion because despite popular belief, and I know we all know this, despite popular belief, Skip and Loafer is not a shoujo. It is a seinen.
You have no idea how many people I've seen say like this is my new favorite shoujo. It's like got some bad news for you, buddy.
Yeah.
Counterpoint: have you seen the art?
I have.
When the character designs are simple, it's a shoujo.
Yeah.
When they're loud, it's a shonen.
When blush is shoujo?
Yeah.
Female lead shoujo.
Yeah. Also, the OP for this Omega banger.
So good.
My favorite.
Yeah, makes me want to dance for sure. I love this shit. I was a big fan of it. This was definitely a breakout for me, and I will be catching up with the manga soon. I actually started reading it somewhat recently. Miles, what are your thoughts?
It's time for me to be a hater, but not really.
Muted.
I like this. I like this show quite a bit. Like a lot. I think for me, there were like it just it had like a few things that like missed for me, like Shima being like that whole like drama thing. Like I don't know, it felt a little melodramatic for me. And like I got it, but it was just a little. I didn't care. Like get over it, bro. Which is like kind of rude to say, but I would have. It would have been more interesting for me to like dive into like his relationship with his mother or something, because that seemed to be like
I agree.
like a root cause of his like sad boy hours. And so like I kind of wanted to like get there. Mitsumi is obviously like an amazing bundle of sunshine, but Miko is my favorite character, which apparently is not an unpopular opinion because I was like checking out if anyone else thought that, and then there was like the Buzz Lightyear meme where they like zoom out and it's just like hundreds of Buzz Lightyears on the thing. So it like zooms like Mika is the best girl and it like zooms out and it's just thousands of Buzz Lightyears. So I was like, damn, I guess I'm not cool. But whatever, she deserves it. I really like Now-chan. I think there's like really positive trans representation in the show, which I think is awesome and something that anime can struggle with sometimes. And I don't know, it was just a really good, cheery, happy show for the most part. And I agree with Jay. Like, I like the pacing and stuff of it. Like, I think that sometimes you have that, you want things to progress when you're like watching them, but I think that the way that it's done is good and realistic, and the characters' decisions and stuff make sense. That I'm okay with that sort of. We'll talk about a show later where I think it took the characters like 4 to 5 episodes too long to get together, and I don't think like Skip and Loafer is one of those. I think that it makes sense for all of that. And that's where I'm at. Pete, you want to do the wrap up for us?
Yeah. Bouncing off what you said there, I think it did like a great job at sort of telling these characters the positions that they're in and why. And that's kind of why the romance isn't at the forefront, because like Mitsumi is still sort of figuring out her feelings for Shima. Like I think it starts as like admiration and idolizing. Like, he's so cool, he's so nice, he's so friendly. And how that progresses past that, I think it was just so well done. And then Shima sort of being closed up a little bit just based off of his previous encounters and engagements, where he's uncomfortable, or I think possibly like aromantic / asexual, to be honest, where it's like I don't know how much of it of like girls that he like really cares about going to that next level. He just like wants to be himself. So I thought that was like a really fun like representation of that style. I think it will also get that later in Yamada, where I think like Yamada is more like demisexual, but that'll be an interesting conversation to have. The Now-chan representation I thought was great. Even just with the visual storytelling with, I think it was like in episode 2 or 3, where like some like girls are talking behind her back and like Mitsumi just like grabs her hand. I thought that was like a really impactful moment where Jay mentioned it earlier, show don't tell. Like Mitsumi, all of that is conveyed through her holding Nao's hand. Just loved it. Anything that makes me pick up the manga and read it immediately says a lot. This is like a very high, solid 9 for me. It made my top 100 all time. I love the story. Jay.
Yeah, I was a big fan of this, honestly. I love the representation, like you said, with Now. Like, I thought that was like really well done, and I liked that the author didn't like stray away from showing the like people being assholes about it, but also other people being willing to defend Now and stuff like that. I thought that was really sweet. Like, as for like the side characters, by the way, while I'm on the topic of it, you know, Mika is cool and all, but Yuzuki is the best side character. That's the main issue that is going on there.
That's because Mika's secretly the main character. That's all.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah, this show was really great. I love the simplicity of the animation and character design. I think that they they didn't have any like crazy like Sakuga or anything like that, but like the production quality of it overall was like really well done. I didn't notice any gaffes. I loved like the like faces and stuff that they would use for the characters. Just a lot of great reaction images and stuff coming from it. Like, not quite as strong of memory as say Oshi no Ko or anything like that, but pretty strong. And I got to give him valid points for that. Voice acting was really good. I really liked Sosuke as a character a lot. Shima. A lot of people seem to not really fuck with him that much, but I thought that he was like a pretty like sweet character with some like somewhat reasonable trauma from everything. Like, how many child actors do you know that are doing super well? Like, be real. Especially like when they're teenagers and whatnot too, you know?
Aqua from Oshi. He's
Yeah,
so cool.
oh no, he's doing great.
Yeah.
Nothing going wrong whatsoever. Yeah. So my overall enjoyment of this was pretty high. I was tuning in like every week to watch this, which is kind of like not rare for me, but oftentimes there's shows that I'll have to like catch up on at the end because I fall behind, and this was definitely not one of those, which puts it in the upper echelons with such heavy hitters as Jigoku and Vinland Saga, two very comparable shows. And yeah, I think for me overall, this is like a 9 out of 10.
Yeah. So here comes my hater. I mimic everything that everyone just said, but got to give it an 8. Unfortunately, it's an 8 out of 10 for me.
You're lucky this
So
isn't Bochi the Rock.
yeah, it's right next to Bochi the Rock. For it's not. I don't know. I don't know how the Bochi thing happened, but if you watch me speak about Bochi, you would think I hate it. But I really did like Bochi the Rock. But I think that overall, like my discourse about Skip and Loafer was a lot happier. So I don't know. I really liked it. I'm excited to continue it. I think I might wait a little bit to see if we get like a season 2, and if not, I'll just catch up. It's not a ton of content, so
Yeah, it's a monthly manga, and for a monthly manga, the chapters are pretty short. I read this very, very fast. So if you're interested in reading it, it's a very easy read. There's probably like enough content for like one more season, and then that's it. So let's move on to our next one, Loving Yamada at level 999. A show that when it started, I was like lukewarm on it. I did like the aspect of this like gamer boyfriend ideal. I wonder why, but got better as we got more episodes until the middle where we got like the whole Runa thing, which was really weird.
it was weird. It was weird. It was weird.
It was just really weird. And then sort of like I get that like Akane's like made up with Runa and it's all under the bridge, but like it was just so creepy and out of place, and I feel like you could have done that same scenario not as creepy, and it kind of threw me off for a few episodes. Towards the end though, man, Yamada low-key Rizgod at the end, like you caught me, like oh
that was like some fucking Riz Lord shit, like for sure.
That was great. But honestly, my favorite thing about Loving Yamada was the visual, like that they just make for like the comedy with it. We just did Kase-san and Morning Glories. They kind of did that as well. I think Yamada did the best. I thought it was so funny how they are portraying their emotions through like these little comic gags with their faces. It was really good. Supporting characters, it's fuck Runa season until I think that she's a better character. I have started reading the manga, but Runa's there. She's fine. It's gonna take me a while to like actually forgive her.
I'm pro Runa because I just don't acknowledge that scene.
Yeah,
that's
fair. Yeah, but then like outside, like after that, when they do like their little funny dance thing, like I love it. She's hilarious, and I think the last episode where she's like, I think she kind of sees like Akane as like a big sister, and she's like very clingy to her. Like that's great. I like that a lot. Etta, I thought was like a low key great supporting character. I like his Ruihime persona online, but then who he is as a person is also Ruihime. Just like the managerial skills of being a guild master, but at the same time being a cute rabbit girl was just super fun. Really like that. The Yukari stuff with Yamada and her like confession, I thought that was like a great little thing to kind of progress where the main couple needed to be towards the end. Really good. Yeah, I really like this. Jay, how about you? What are your thoughts?
This one was also one that like I hear the premise and I'm like I might pass on it, but it surprised me is what I'm struggling to say. Yamada as a character starts off incredibly boring. I think we can all agree there. Like he is very quiet and doesn't really emote much, and even in the sense of like show don't tell, he doesn't really even show all that much at the start. Like we mostly hear about how he is from other characters, And I guess that's just kind of like trying to add on to his allure, is his like tall, dark, handsome, mysterious vibes. But for me, it wasn't really doing a ton, even as like a bisexual man. So I don't know. Eventually, though, when he comes out of his shell, he's pretty cool. Like I did enjoy it whenever he starts like trying to try a bit more for main character whose name
Akane.
Akane.
Akane. Thank you. I like it when he starts trying a bit more for Akane. Akane as a whole is like a pretty interesting character too, in my opinion. Like she feels like a not worse, but like less developed version of like a Toru Honda type character. Like goofy, friends with everybody, like always trying to like solve issues and stuff like that. But like Toru is like one of the most well-written protagonists of all time, so it works for her. Akane is like she's not bad, but she just doesn't have like the heavyweight like that to kind of do it as well as that sort of like to do it as well as Toru in that sort of role, which I know is like compared to like one of the goats, but that's just the type. She's the archetypical version of
Hydrogen Bob versus Krog Baby.
100%, 100%, yeah. So I think I would like to read a bit more and see if like she gets a bit more character development, because I think like just by the nature of the show, it's like a slow burn on both character development and their romance. So this is something where I think it really could have benefited from being like a two-core show,
100%.
in my opinion. Because where it left off, like whatever it stopped, I literally said, "Wait, that's where it ends." Like that was like in the middle of a scene, practically. Like I don't know. Sorry, like I know that I'm kind of rambling here, but like the show as a whole has a bit of weird pacing, in my opinion, for a one-core show that doesn't have like it did get a second season announced, or was it just an
No.
English
We
dub?
got the English dub announced.
Yeah. So like I don't know, weird production stuff, in my opinion, that isn't related to like looks. Miles, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I mean, I enjoyed the show. I thought the supporting cast was good. I choose to ignore that one Runa episode because like I legitimately thought like maybe the show was going to go in like a slightly more sinister direction because of how that scene was like directed and everything. Like I don't know, that scene was just like really weird where Akane's in the bathroom and then the guy just like comes in and like tries to open the stall when she's in there, and like Runa like set that up, and like obviously Runa feels bad because she just wanted Akane to feel awkward and not like almost get assaulted. But then that just all got brushed under so quickly that it was weird to me. Like the resolution didn't really fit the crime of not necessarily what Runa did, but what that guy did.
Yeah.
Like no, like he should have been like fucking arrested or something. Like I don't know. Um, I think what the show does really well is it has these like really big whammy romantic moments, right? Where Yamada's like fucking coming in and being swoon worthy and like taking care of her when she's sick, or just being hot and anyway like helping her with her computer stuff. Just a bunch of moments like that. And I think those are all like really good. And it does add to like a bit of that weird pacing that we've all talked about where like I forget what episode it is, but Akane is like, and I thought I liked this dialogue because this feels like actual like human dialogue where you're like, if I liked you, would you like that? And it's like that's like a very fun way that I feel like people actually like hedge into like trying to gauge someone's interest, right? Like
Mhm.
you're like nervous about it, so you're just like you do that, and then like Yamada was like, I'd be the luckiest guy in the entire world if you liked me. And it's like fucking, flowers everywhere. And then like the beginning of next episode, she's like, oh, he was probably kidding. And it's like, no! Ah! um,
You know how
so
Yamada does, by the way.
yeah, it was like, that was part of it. Like he's not really like a jokester or anything, you know? So like that annoyed me a little bit, but they got there at the end and it was like wicked swaggy. Like when he just like does the "oh you caught me" sort of thing. I was like taking notes. It's like how to riz my wife up from Yamada. So I don't know. Overall, I did enjoy it. Pete, you want to take us to the wrap up?
Yeah, I definitely want to mirror something that Jay said, because after reading the manga, if this was a 2-core, it'd just be so much better. Yamada being like this demisexual person, once he kind of gets to the point where he's opened up to Akane, is like a completely different person. And I'm really liking what I see in the manga, but we don't get that in the anime. And it just makes me wish like season 2 win, please, because then people can see we got a glimpse of Yamada being the Riz Lord. Wait till we actually see the Riz Lord in action.
He's more Rizzy, him or Ganta?
Ganta is oh my god, dude. Ganta has one of the most swag moves I've ever seen in a romantic story. It's to the point where yesterday I pulled Preston away. I'm like, listen, I'm going to take what I saw in the manga and apply it to my real life. That's how much of a swag move it was. But back to Yamada, I just thought this was just so much fun to watch. It was a blast, minus the Runa scene. The even like the MMO elements of FOS was pretty fun. Minor manga spoilers, but there's like a scene where Yamada realizes that Akane is using like her level 1 beginner gear, but she doesn't want to change it out because it's cute, is something that I could foresee doing in like an MMO period. So stuff like that was just like really fun. I'm gonna give the show an 8. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I enjoyed the show quite a bit, but I think that without knowledge of what happens next, like if it was a 2-core, I think that this would be an easy 8, like even like an 8.5 on like any list for me personally. But like where it ended, I have it rated as a 7.3 on any list, so I'm gonna go ahead and give this a 7.
Yeah, so for me, this is an 8 for me. I did like a watch party with like Trent and Galaxy when we were doing this, and that really helped my enjoyment, I think. I really like the side characters in this a lot, like especially if I ignore that one Runa scene. Like Momo, I think is a great friend. And I liked her like antics going like speed dating and stuff, but looks like her and like Eita might have some sort of chemistry going on, and I think that would be a lot of fun. Like most romances, I'm always hype on the B couple. So, I don't know. I'm excited to watch more. 8 out of 10 for me.
Right on. So 2 8s and a 7.
Sakana!
Next up, we have our first, I say like pure comedy, maybe the only pure comedy that we had this season, Mashle, Magic and Muscles. I was coming into this, like, I knew I would like it. I probably was going to give it like a 7 at the end of it. Really enjoyed like the first 8 episodes. I like how they kind of one-man punch parried some stuff with shonen, and it was thoroughly enjoyable. Though towards the end, I really did not like this like final boss scene with the puppet dude. Those last 3 episodes kind of took me away from what I was enjoying with it. Not like a whole lot to say for this story, I think. To me, this was just like a really fun watch, but it doesn't do what One Punch Man Season 1 did. It doesn't do what Psyche K does in terms of like this parody. But it was enjoyable. It was I think I watched in like bunches of 6 episodes at a time. Really easy, consumable watch. But when I see something like A1 Pictures at the helm, I'm expecting more. If this was like Studio, I don't know, Zex or Studio Go Hands or something like that, and I saw this, I'm like, yes, this is what I expect from a studio like this. But A1's like a pretty established company, and they've done very well animated properties, and I didn't really get like a Sakuga moment. I didn't really see like a, oh wow, look at this moment from Mashle. Comedy was there though, and it was enjoyable. Jay, what are your thoughts on Mashle?
This was something where I kind of went into it with somewhat high hopes, just because honestly, wholly because of our boy Tyler hyping up the manga to me. And the first few episodes were very funny, don't get me wrong. I think that when the show is focusing on MASH, it is super funny and pretty good. But like I just cannot care about this side cast at all.
Mm-hmm.
None of them are interesting to me. Like Lance would be somewhat interesting if he didn't have like the syscon thing. Although like MASH reacting, whew, Mash reacting to the Syscon thing and like
Aqua
threatening to call
relating.
the police on him. It was funny. Yeah, Aqua relating. Like Finn does literally nothing. Dot, I just don't really like his whole gag about like wanting to be the main character and like screaming at everything like Asta. Lemon, she does absolutely nothing as well besides getting kidnapped and fantasize about having group sex with a bunch of
Yeah.
men, which I understand. Like, who among us? Who among us? I just don't bring it up all the time. And then, like, I will say that the his dad and like the government guy, they were funny side characters. Like the scene where they just pop up randomly and they're like, "Hey, shouldn't you be going to work?" And
Screen
he's like,
time is more
"Screen time
important.
is more important than work." I'm like, hell yeah, like that's actually pretty funny. Um, we had some. I think we had like a recap episode or something in the middle of this too. That was like whatever to me. They managed to make it like somewhat funny even for a recap episode, but like I don't think you should be having recap episodes for plot like comedy shows, IMO, unless it's just like it obviously it's like a production thing, like they just had to, but like it's a bad look for a show like this, in my opinion. Like GWitch, you can kind of get away with like that because there's like 87 named characters that are named stuff like Tuna Quattro and stuff like that. And it's hard to keep
That's a
track of.
character in Wing's name. That's literally a Gundam character name.
And like, don't get me wrong, Mashle was fine, but yeah, when we give our closing thoughts, I'm not going to be super kind about it. I'm not gonna lie. Miles, what do you think?
Yeah, I think where Mashle falls flat is that all the side. I kind of care about Lance because they like characterize him at all, and like I don't know, I didn't necessarily think that like he was like sexually into his sister. Like I think he just cared about his sister, and like that's a thing decent people do.
Well, it's like in Yamada when someone calls Eta a Syscon, he's like, I'm not a Syscon. I just obsessively care about my sister more than that is normal. In other words, a sister complex.
Yeah. There were some weird things at the end of this, like someone like the secret main bad guy was like pretending to be Lance, and like we don't know where Lance is, and then that just never gets answered. We just don't know what happened to him. It's never addressed by anyone. Which is really weird. Lemon is not a character, like
No.
at all. Dot is a character, but I don't like him. Finn looks to me like he might eventually become a character when they like introduced his brother, and his brother's like God's gift to magicians. So like something to look forward to, I guess. But honestly, I doubt they'll capitalize on it. However, it's really funny. The show is funny. It's got like 3 jokes, but I like them pretty much every time. I think when they start to be a little more dramatic as opposed to comedic at the end, that matter. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. It doesn't do great. This is something that I think has a season 2 confirmed,
It
but
does.
I don't necessarily like. I think I enjoyed my time with Mashle, but I sort of think this is it for me. I don't know. Pete, you want to wrap us up?
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm kind of gonna pull a J here, where like if I had any list, this would be like a 6.6 or something like that. But because we use like a Mal rating, I'm gonna give this a 7. They did the comedy well enough to the point where I was intrigued every episode. But yeah, outside of MASH, did not care about anybody else. Maybe like the Grandmaster that we saw in like the first episode, he seemed funny, but we don't really get anything more from that. Just like
Dumbledore?
a very average to slightly above average comedy parody. Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say probably just go watch One Punch Man instead.
Yep.
I'm gonna give this a 6.
Yeah, I think that if you like Harry Potter or whatever, it's worth a watch because they do make fun of Harry Potter and
Yeah,
like
that's fair actually. Sorry.
yeah.
I forgot people like Harry Potter.
um as a millennial, it's impossible to forget. Um but like I think there's like some good comedy bits like around that, like because it literally is just Harry Potter. Like there's a sorting hat they play Quidditch.
It was a sorting unicorn skeleton.
It was, which is cooler than a hat.
Yeah, that's way doper.
But yeah, for me, this is like a 7, like on a lower end. So like lower 7 out of 10. Probably like a 6.8 or something like that. Like Pete was talking about.
All right, 2 7s and a 6 for Mashle.
Sakana!
Next up is our second favorite Yuri of the season, Birdie Wing Season 2. Kind of like how they set up for Season 2 and I was hoping what was going to happen. And then the ending happened. The pacing was insane that they go from, in like a span of like 6 or 7 episodes, winning the national Japanese duos high school golf tournament to playing, and not only playing, winning the British Open. Just sonic, I mean, winning in quotation marks. Let me put that in quotation marks. Just supersonic speed where I don't know, but it did keep up with like its outlandish, insane storyline of Aoi developing the same heart condition as her father, who she finds out who her real father is in the second half of the season. Just like, what is happening in this story?
They had golf cancer, dude.
They did have, yeah, they had a severe case of TB, which was like, am I wrong to think that isn't TB like curable? Am I wrong?
So they didn't have TB. They had like multiple sclerosis.
MS, sorry,
yeah.
wrong acronym. Oh,
yeah, one of those curable.
Yeah, I was like, I thought, I was like, I'm pretty sure TB is curable.
They had like
MS,
but it was only when they played golf.
Yeah, they got so stressed about golf, they died. Which matches the theme of Birdie Wing, right?
Yeah, So, Pete, you lied a couple of times. One, you said that this was our second favorite Yuri. This is very strongly my third favorite. And then also
that's for you. Yeah. My apologies.
And then also calling this a Yuri is a disservice to the fucking genre, because they just sort of forgot to have our girls interact almost this entire season, which is nuts to me. Like, it felt like, I don't know what the fuck happened, but like, they just, I enjoyed it. Like, I did. I had fun. It was Birdie Wing. It was insane and stuff. But like, so like ultimately, who fucking cares about the plot? It's Birdie Wing. But like, let's say you did care about the plot. Let's just posit that for a second. What the fuck happened?
Yeah.
Like, we'll talk about GWitch at the end here. That had like a bit of a rushed ending, but overall I thought it was fine. Like, not even fine. I enjoyed it a lot. And I think the fact that it was rushed wasn't a huge detriment to the ending. Birdie Wing, Jesus Christ. The whole thing was we were supposed to watch them play golf together again, and then that just never happens.
Yep.
That actually just doesn't happen. Like, the entire point of the show never happens, which is, I thought there would be another episode or something. Like, maybe we'll get an OVA or something. I don't know.
We are getting a Switch game? A Switch golf game?
I think the Switch game is an import, like a port of the mobile game that only exists in Japan.
Okay. I was like, maybe the story continues in like the game.
It's starting at the beginning, so it doesn't continue.
Okay.
But maybe eventually I'll have to play through the Birdie Wing visual novel to get any sort of closure on Birdie Wing. I did love that Eve got disqualified from the British Open because of her ties with the Mafia. I thought that was like so stupid that they just tied it back to reality like that. Like, all of this insane shit happens, and then it's like, wait a minute, you're a criminal.
Yeah.
Like,
snap back to reality. Whoop.
Like, have you seen Monty Python and the Holy Grail?
It's been years.
Okay. Well, at the end of it, they all get arrested because they kill a historian in like the first 10 minutes of the movie. And it's like, so like they're invading the castle and like the cops show up, and it just like reminded me of that, where it was just like, actually, you can't just get away with like betting your life on golf.
Yeah.
That's not allowed. I don't know. You want to wrap us up? Do you have anything else to say?
Yeah, I mean, just for how outlandish this series is in general is sort of what I'm basing it off of. If I was basing it off of like merit and my respect of anime, this would probably be like a 5. But because the show is just so batshit crazy at times, I loved it. I gave season 1 a 7. I'm gonna give this a 7 as well.
Yeah, so I gave season 1 a 9, and I will stick by that. This is more like an 8 out of respect for me, probably a 7 in reality.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know. It was weird. It was weird. I liked it, but it lacked the charm of season 1,
For
I
sure.
think.
Nope, I agree.
Okay.
All right, moving on to our next show, we have Golden Kamuy season 4. Sort of my memory of this was a little distorted because of the huge break in between the first few episodes and then sort of wrapping it up now. However, that being said, it's Golden Kamuy. It was fantastic. There was a couple incredible moments from this season. I thought the Asripa director, that whole movie episode was really well done. The guy who sort of loses his mind and is playing different roles with the bear, I thought that was a very interesting episode, and kind of how season 4 ended with this pirate character. Kind of like, I don't know where his alliance is, but I thought that was a great setup for season 5. It also has one of my favorite foreshadowing moments of any form of media ever, where we have this Jack the Ripper-esque character sort of being pursued in episode, I think it's 7 or 8. That to lead up to a jizz fight in episode 10 or 11 was something you could have given me 100 guesses of what Golden Kamuy was going to do. And for some reason, jizz fight wasn't in there, but it definitely fits Golden Kamuy. Also in this season, we found out like Asripa remembering more of the information around gold and her being more of the focal point of Tsurumi sort of trying to capture her. I would say this is a very solid season. I think how they set up for season 5, which is the final, was handled really well. Jay, what are your thoughts on GK season 4?
Yeah, I love Golden Kamuy, so like I pretty much agree with everything that you said. I like Asripa coming into like her own. I like Ogata returning. I like his line where they're like, "Oh, is our sniper all better?" And he's like, "No, because you're not a sniper unless you shoot people." And I was like, "Damn, that's fucking raw." Ogata, it with the fucking Kinjiro Suda voicing as always. Like that's just raw as hell. I liked the backstory dives we had for a bunch of the members of the 7th in this season. Like seeing, what's his face? Crazy guy with the tattoos on his face now.
Oh yeah.
Who had the jizz fight. I can't think of his fucking name. I know it's blanking from my mind. But everybody knows what I'm talking about when I say jizz fight. Seeing
Jizz
like
fight
his
guy,
backstory where he like killed his best friend out of jealousy when he was younger. And like as well as seeing more of Ogata's backstory, like diving into his psychology a bit. Like really just seeing like how Tsurumi has manipulated all of these men into like loving him and seeing him as like a best friend and father figure, so they'll work towards his goals. Like I used to have a friend who I would argue about like greatest villains in anime with, and like he would always say Tsurumi, and I didn't agree with him until I read Golden Kamuy, and I gotta say Tsurumi is a top tier villain in my opinion as far as like plotting and motivation and such goes. Like it is just truly incredible to see the writing that they've been doing with him. Voice acting cast going crazy as per usual. Just really enjoying that. I loved the arcs that we had. The bear arc is like super trippy. Even as someone who was reading it, I like as I was watching, I was like, damn, I can't really remember how this goes. I'm excited to see where it goes. And it was like the way that they like explained what visually we saw was really well done in my opinion, because that's something that can often it's hard to balance in horror a lot of the time. Yeah, I love this season quite a bit. I think that it's probably like my second overall favorite season of Golden Kamuy. I liked the last season just a little bit more because
Agreed.
it had a lot of strong moments in Russia and stuff like that. But this one is also extremely good, and I'm very excited for the 5th season. You want to do our closing thoughts?
Yeah. Just Golden Kamuy is always been extremely solid throughout its entire series, and season 4 was no exception. Had a lot of great moments. I like how we're getting close to the end game, and I like how they fleshed that out in this season. Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 9. I thought it was really solid.
I'm also going to give it a 9, actually. I really enjoyed this season quite a bit, and I think that, if we get, like, great production with hopefully no unfortunate delays due to production team deaths this time, like, I think that season 5 will have a real fighting chance.
Yeah, yeah. So 2 9s for Golden Kamuy season 4. If you're not watching Golden Kamuy, you need to. All right. Next up, we have Heavenly Delusion, a show that, to me, I was like 50-50 on again. I liked the premise, but a lot of the time, like post dystopia slash apocalyptic, sometimes misses the mark, and it's not really my thing. However, by the time that this was all said and done, fucking loved Heavenly Delusion. I thought they did a great job at these two main characters exploring the world while there's this other underlying mystery about heaven going on in, I'm gonna say in the same time in quotation marks, but in terms of like how it's portrayed in the TV show, I think it's pretty clear that that heaven, the back flashes that we're seeing is like 15-ish years in the past. Loved like the mystery of like some people kind of having powers, but that power has like a consequence later down the road. Like these kids are not living that long, or at some points like turning into these man eaters. Just really well done in terms of like animation. There's a couple really nice Sakuga moments that I thought stood out. This is honestly one of the best animated properties I think of this season. I didn't watch Demon Slayer. I'm sure that was great, but I thought the animation team killed it in Heavenly Delusion. There's not a whole lot of bad things to say about it. I think it maybe started a little slow, but I think that's just to set up what it was. So, Jay, your thoughts on Heavenly Delusion?
Yeah, this was one of my most hyped shows releasing for the season. Whenever we got the trailer for it, I knew that I was going, like, it intrigued me just seeing it because I like the mystery aspect of it quite a bit and like the sci-fi elements. I'm usually a big fan of like post-apocalyptic stuff. Oh, okay, maybe not usually. If it's like unique enough, I'm a fan of it. I don't just like where a bunch of like dirty hot people roaming around the countryside, Walking Dead type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that doesn't get me, but this I think it was done pretty well. We've talked a lot about like show don't tell in this video, but I think that this is the show that most masterfully did it this season with like the so to kind of put it on the table, the aspects of the show, the part that we see with like Tokyo is that is heaven that part, and then the post-apocalyptic thing we see is the delusion aspect of it. So it's split into the heaven plot and the delusion plot. And I really liked the like how they don't really tell you that at first. It's left up in the air. It's not just like we start off in the apocalypse and then it has like black screen bold 15 years later vine boom or something like that. I like that they kind of left it open to interpretation and stuff like that. And there's actually like, so to put it in full, put another thing on the table here. I read this whole manga like before it was even done, just because I was tired of waiting for the weekly episodes. I want to get it over with. There's not really a lot of content left because it is a monthly manga, so it'll probably take a while for there to be a season 2. I think we covered like 70% of it in this season, so yeah. If you want to catch up with it, it's a pretty quick read. But there's a lot of stuff that they kind of adapted really well in the anime where if you were to go back and rewatch it, you might be able to make some educated guesses at things that they don't tell you, is what I'll say. Because if I say anything more, it's a spoiler on it. So I think that this show was just masterfully done. I think it's kind of like besides Oshi no Ko, I think that this is, in my opinion, somewhat more of a breakout than Oshi no Ko, simply because Oshi no Ko is massive right now, don't get me wrong, but it was already a known quantity. Everybody knew it was going to blow up before, like when the anime was announced. Everybody knew it was going to be popular.
Mhm.
Hell, we knew it was going to be a popular anime before the adaptation was announced. We were like, when this
Ooh.
gets adapted, it'll be fine. I mean, it's done by like Aka, you know,
Yeah.
like it has clout behind it. Heavenly Delusion, like it was not as much of a known quantity. It was getting there through like sheer power of will and like some really interesting like graphical tricks in some of the episodes, like just like the use of just the use of like ignoring like boundary lines and stuff like that. It reminded me of Fooly Cooley at points with how they played around with it. I really enjoyed it. Sorry, that was pretty long-winded. Miles, what do you think?
No, that's okay. Heavenly Delusion is such an interesting one for me because I definitely did like it, but I personally expected to like it more than I ended up liking it. Like, I definitely fuck with it, but like on paper, it feels like the most up my alley thing of like all time. Like, it's just got a lot of that sort of like mysterious, vaguely supernatural sort of vibe going on. And when I think about, I don't know, it's weird because I can't like defend that position super well. Like, I can't think of, like, I just, for whatever reason, it just didn't vibe with me, and that's the explanation. Um, like, that's all I got. Like, Pete was saying that he thought it got stronger. For me, it just got like a little weaker for whatever reason. I don't know why. Um, but I still, I mean, I really liked it. I thought the ending was pretty strong. I think there's a lot of things you can potentially glean from that. Um, I can say them because I don't know. So like I think like there's a pretty good chance that like Maru is like Tokyo's child or something like that. Um, and like that's something that I think like Jay was saying, like a lot of shows would just
Keep in
tell
mind,
you.
Maru literally means circle.
Okay, okay, yep, that's right. Okay, well, there we are, aren't we?
Sorry, I mean, slight spoiler, I guess, but it does literally mean circle.
That's true. And I even know that, but I didn't think about it at all. Mimi Hime means ear princess. Um, so we really should have seen the ears coming.
It checks out.
Whenever I got to that point in the manga, I was like, I knew it! I felt so validated. I knew those were going to be ears.
Um, it's fun. I think part of it might be that like I don't necessarily like the romantic angle between Kiriko and Maru for whatever reason. And I felt like a little validated for that after the assault scene, which I don't think itself was done completely distastefully or anything, but like Maru choosing that point in time to confess felt a little weird to me, I guess. I don't know. I just
I pinned it on him being like a stupid kid, but also it is like a really awkward time.
yeah. I guess it's like it's tough because you're right. He is being a stupid kid, but then like also
there are definitely points in the manga where after this, where I just look at it and say that was actually just bad writing. So it could just be like a bad writing moment. Honestly, it has those.
yeah. It was just like I don't know, and like Kiriko sort of seemed to bounce back a little fast. Like maybe she won't, but we like end with her being like, "Well, got to get over that thing that just happened," and like driving away. Um, so I'm sure it'll be like addressed further, but like that felt weird. It's that aftermath of that scene felt a little weird to me. Um, but I mean, overall, I'm definitely interested to see what'll happen. I imagine this will get a second season.
It's rumored. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's like it was definitely pretty popular, and it's definitely very good. And I'm excited to see what happens. I really like the art. I really like the OP. It's like one of my favorite OPs of the season. And then there's a couple of the like kids that from heaven where like I'm sort of excited to see where and if they pop up like in the world.
You would not be disappointed by that.
Yeah, that's yeah. So like that's something that I'm definitely looking forward to. I think, like, I don't know. I think it maybe is just like half a step too weird for me, or with how, like, Kiriko, or more accurately, like, Haruki is like the scene in the episode like 3 or whatever with like the mirror and like they were sibling. I don't know. It was just weird. Um, so like I think what prevents me from like fully committing to this is that it's maybe just half a step too weird for me, which is fine, right? But like I did really really like it. So, Pete, you want to take us to the roundup?
Yeah, not too much to add. I wish that Maru would turn down the Denji vibes just a little bit. I get that he's a teenager, but I think at some points it was a little extra for me. But the show is beautifully animated. The adventure, the mystery was great. I'm gonna give this a 9.
Yeah, I don't really have too much to add either, except that I do love that OP a lot, and I think that like both visually and musically, it is an insanely good OP. Yeah, this is a 9 out of 10 for me too. I think people should read the manga. It's very good. Besides for some bad writing moments that I mentioned.
Yeah, for me this is like an 8 out of 10, but I definitely think it's something that if you like, mystery, sci-fi, sort of vaguely supernatural sort of jazz stuff, like give it a go. Just know that there are some heavy moments and some kind of weird things, but a lot of anime fans deal with that just fine. And I don't know, I like the only major Maru Denji vibe moment for me was when he was like, "I'll solo a bear so I can touch boobs."
Yeah, that's like the
Um,
main one. Yeah.
yeah. Um, and then his like commitment to that bit was a bit much, but like I don't know, he is a dumb 15-year-old.
Yeah, no, for
So
sure.
魚
All right, so that was at 2 9s and an 8 for Heavenly Delusion. Before we get to our last show, we do our speed round. It's every show that we didn't cover. We give each show allocated at up to a minute. You can do less and just knock them out for that. So I will go first. My Clueless First Friend. Touching, fun, little elementary / middle school romance. I wish they toned down the bullying aspect of this show. It was kind of like way too much for what they were trying. I feel like what the message was trying to send, but still enjoyable, still super cute and fun. I gave it a 7. Too Cute Crisis. This is me wishing I owned a pet. I wish I wasn't allergic to everything. Really just fun show about like the cuteness of owning cats or dogs or hamsters or porcupines. This is definitely a Pete show, not for everybody. The OP is a banger to something Big Bang or something like that. Really fun. Gave it a 7. My most underrated show of the season, Otaku Elf. Very Iyashiki style show. It was super fun, Miles. They'll do that.
you're gonna do it back to me in like 2 minutes, dude.
Yeah,
Don't worry.
yeah, no, that's for sure. It was really fun. It was just like really it centered a lot. Some of the episodes were centered around like food and just games and having fun, and I like that. I like that in like my slice of life, and it was a very relaxing style show. The VA for the elf was one of my favorite VAs this season. Just a great show. I'm giving it an 8. Rokugo Bad Girls. It's the incel MC dream where the ugliest kid in the class gets a crest on his head and makes all the bad girls attracted to him, and then he instantly becomes cool. It was all right for the beginning. Towards the end, I was pretty sick of it. I'm not going to go too much into it, but I gave it a 5. The reason why Raylina ended up at the Duke's mansion, I thought I would like to show a lot more, but I ended up kind of being iffy. I like the MC and I like Noah, but everything else outside of that was pretty whatever. The magic stuff was weird too when that got introduced. I'm gonna give it a 6. And then the Konosuba spinoff, I read the manga, so I kind of knew what I was getting into. I just like the Konosuba when they're a full cast more than this. Megumin's fun, but 12 episodes of just Megumin was a lot. I'm gonna give it a 7. It was still pretty fun though. Jay, you're up next.
So quick thing for me, just 2 of them. Maho Shoujo Magical Destroyers. I think people fucking slept on this shit. If you like Madoka Magica and like Evangelion and shit like that, I think you need to peep this. Like, yeah, it's comedic a lot of the time, but like the way what it develops into is truly more than the sum of its parts, in my opinion. This is something that I gave an 8. it is currently sitting at a 6.4 on Mao, and I think it deserves to be at least like a 7, maybe like a mid 7 overall. Like I don't really understand why people weren't on this like that. I think it's pretty solid overall. Character designs are good. Really good OP and ED as well as just general soundtrack. Like if this OST comes out on vinyl, I am buying that shit. And then the other one that I have was, what was it? Sorry. Oh yeah, Dead Mount Deathplay. This is another one where I really enjoyed the manga quite a bit. It's a bit, I wouldn't recommend it for everybody because it's definitely ecchi at points, and some of the characters can be eh. Um, but it's still a Narita thing, and I like everything Narita does. So like the floor for like a Narita project for me is like a 7, and I think that this would be like a 7.5 for me. So I'm just gonna go ahead and give it like a 7 for here. Miles, what about you?
Yeah, so I also watched Megamine. I think I'm probably a little higher on it than Pete is, mostly because it takes a lot of what I love in Konosuba. I agree that the full cast is wonderful, but I think Union and Megamine's friendship is a lot of fun and sort of mimics real life friendships very well. And it the show itself drops a lot of the ecchi that's in Konosuba. It's not free of it, but there's nothing quite on that level of that succubus episode
Yeah.
from episode 1, you know. Um, so I really enjoyed that. I'm gonna give that like an 8, I think. And I am putting myself on the timer. I have 1 minute. Yuri is My Job is fucking amazing. Everyone should watch it. I gave it a 9 out of 10. It's amazing. You might be thinking, oh, Miles, you're wrong. Fuck you. You're wrong. It is like a really fun meta commentary on Yuri itself and the treatment of women in society. Um, there is like multiple stages of how it's presented. So if you like meta stuff at all, go with it. They're literally putting on a play the entire time. Like the OP starts with curtains opening. It's not meant to be serious, and and that sort of like bleeds into their real life. And they're worried about how the audience will perceive them if they do stuff. And so it's like a commentary on like how your relationships in anime are not always allowed to go super far because people won't like that, the commitment. And then, oh, you're dressing too scandalous even though you're comfortable with that. We can't have that because it'll ruin the audience impression. Yuri is My Job. Watch it. 9 out of 10. 60 seconds.
Nice. Love it. Yeah, I dropped that show after one episode. All right, so that was our speed round. Let's get to our last show that we are reviewing. Gundam, The Witch from Mercury, Season 2. Left Season 1 on an insane cliffhanger. And I guess I really enjoyed the 3-month break in between part 1 and part 2. Sort of theorizing what the next part of GWitch was going to do, which may have hindered it because I feel like I had a lot of expectations on how they're going to flesh out the story, and it answered some, left some on the table, and I think that's like the biggest issue with the second part. However, I think they answered the biggest questions, so it's like it's solid. But like I don't know if we ever got like the brainwash thing that we kind of hypothesized was like a thing with like the happy birthday. I don't know if that was ever answered. I might have just missed it because I'm dumb, but I guess just when it was all said and done, I think we got the ending that we wanted. The happily ever after with Suleta and Mirin. Throughout the story though, yeah, I think like the choreography with like the fights were great, and sort of how they piece together the Earth conflict with the Spacians was really well done. I really enjoyed part 2 of GWitch. There was something missing though to make me feel like I should elevate it to like top 3 of the season. But I mean, just in general, this was a really great season of Gundam. Jay, your thoughts?
Yeah, I really enjoyed the second season. Like, I thought it was kind of heaters from back to back. I will say, I think that this show suffered a lot from being like a 24 episode show and not like the normal like 50 episode Gundam show. The plot points towards the end are kind of rushed, in my opinion. Like, it would have been cool to have like another couple seasons with them like dealing with the Earth stuff rather than having like a flash forward. I'm glad that the gals got to have like a happy ending. Like that's cool and all. Like I'm glad it kind of worked out for them, but I don't know. I wanted more, and it's also annoying that we don't really ever see them be physically affectionate or anything like that. Like the closest we get is them like banging their helmets together and shit like that. I don't know. Like I liked it a lot, but there's some aspects of it that kind of left a bad taste in my mouth, and knowing that we're almost assuredly not ever going to get any more doesn't really help me with that, unfortunately. Miles, what do you think?
So, I mean, okay. Like, to put this in perspective, I would wake up at 5 a.m. every week to watch this. I really, 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 really like this show. I have my little Suletta and Miorine acrylic stand. Here are two Gunpla that I just have in arm's reach. I have my 100 sized Ariel right there. Um, I really like it. I think the ending was like a little rushed, but I'm more of like it would have been nice if we had 1 to 2 other episodes just to give some scenes a little more time to breathe, more than necessarily dealing with the Earth space conflict. I think that not necessarily Witch from Mercury, but more Ad Stella at some point is almost assuredly going to happen. The Ariel high grade is the highest selling Gunpla of all time for its period of time. Like Bandai likes money. It'll happen at some point. I think that they even leave some of those like threads open where like stuff, it's like they're working on it, but it's not perfect. There are protests going on. They talk about how the machinery and like the assets from the Bennett group are being sold to like random people, and they're not exactly sure where all of that is going. So you can always just season 2 hook that in if you want to. Um, I I don't know. I just loved like every single second of all of this. Um, I love Soletta. I think she's like a great character. I loved that we had like a final confrontation in a show like this where it was entirely verbal, where it was just like her. The climax is literally her telling her mom no,
Yep.
and like that's neat to me. I think that's really cool. Like I think big fights are awesome, and we got some earlier in the season. Um, but to me, GWitch is such like a deep personal story, which is a little bit different from other Gundams where you normally have this, like a massive war going on, and there's like 75 factions. And while you have some of that there, the main focus on this is Soletta's relationship with Miorine and Soletta's relationship with her mom, and how she manages to like overcome that and like become her own person. Um, I think that I don't know. I just liked everything about it. I think that while I would have loved like a kiss scene, Jay, we do see them like kind of cuddle together and hold hands at the end. Um,
Copium.
and I don't know if it's copium. Like
Copium.
Gundam main couples don't kiss very often, like just in the show. Like that just doesn't happen. Um, which is like I guess a little bit weird for me, but like it's just I don't know. It's not something that historically has happened with them, though Mika did bang what's her name in the Barbados. We didn't get a scene for it though. But I don't know. I was happy. I was happy that they destroyed the weapon of mass destruction through permit level gay. Like I thought that was exciting. Like I had a
Rainbow
great time with it.
explosion.
Yeah, I mean literally. Um it was great. I don't know. It's one of my favorite shows of all time. We can move it to the wrap up
For
though.
sure. Yep. Yeah. Suletta was probably my favorite female character this season. Ghoul is probably my favorite supporting character this season. And that says a lot because I think overall, this season of anime is probably like top 3 all time for me. It was just an incredible season. Red Birthmark was just an incredible way to
God,
end
so good.
each episode. I just wish some of the questions that are left on the table were answered. That's my only complaint. Otherwise, I loved it. I loved Suletta and Mirin. You know, we see the ending. It's funny that Yuri is a keychain now. I don't know. That's kind of whatever, but like, it's fine. Yeah, I'm gonna give this a 9. I really liked GWitch.
Yeah. I'm still positive on this. Don't get me wrong. I just think it really could have, like, it's similar to like Yamada-kun, where it really could have used more, in my opinion. Like, even just like, I don't know, like another core or season or something, doing it like JoJo style, 36 episodes. Like, I feel like we would have been able to get so much more out of that. Like, seeing like Shattuck being like, "Oh yeah, man, I'm just gonna time for me to go make up for all that," and then we just don't ever really see like how any like all we ever do is see him like being talked to by people. We don't ever see like how they're actually going to punish him or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like Ella, both the Ellens, like I would love to see more of what they're up to. Like, what is the fucking Ellen Zero going to be up to? Do people on Earth who see Ellen 5 wandering around just randomly think they're seeing Space Bezos going on an adventure? Like, I don't know, man. There was so much that they could have had, and I do agree that like more than anything, Bamco loves money. God, do
Yes.
they fucking love money? And that's all like Gundam really is a money making pit for them. And I'm thankful for it, don't get me wrong. But I don't know, I just see them moving on after this. Like I think even if we get more Ad Stella stuff, it's not gonna be with the people we know and love, you know? I don't know. That's just kinda how I
I
see
think
it.
I
Like
think they'll
maybe
Zeta it.
yeah, okay. I could see like us getting Miorine and Soletta to show up like during a movie or something, kind of like with what happens with Char and Amuro at points, like where they've been in the background for like years at that point and they show up. But like, I don't know. Overall, for me though, this is it's closer to like an 8.5, but I'm gonna go ahead and give this a 9 out of 10 because I really did enjoy the second season quite a bit. So yeah,
Yeah.
Miles, give us your 10 out of 10 review, please.
Yeah. So like GWitch holds like a very special place in my heart. I do understand, like, I think like its biggest flaw is that it leaves people wanting more in a way that it given its like run, it couldn't like develop, right? And I completely get that and I understand that. But for me, the main attraction to it was always Suletta and Mirine's story and like her personal development and everything. And I think that was just done so well. Um, I think when you like, I think a lot of stuff is like I think it does show not tell in like a really good way too. Like we were talking about this earlier. Like there were people guessing like the Ariel thing with it being Airy, and just based off of the date that the first episode took place. Um, you know, like, wait a minute, Soletta's not 23. I bet she's a clone. Like that, there's people who said that, which is
Oh
it's
man,
insane.
Soletta's doing the ye old meme show.
Yeah. Yeah, that's well. That was, some people were like, "You're crazy. She's just lying about her age for some reason," and it's like, I guess that's more plausible, but that wasn't the case. You know, I think I don't know. This is a 10 out of 10 for me. I fucking love this series. I have faith that we'll get more. I think that if we get more, it won't focus on Mirin and Soletta. Like, I just want them to be able to retire and have fun and maybe show up in the background and mentor some people or something. Um, and then we can focus on that Earth conflict going on in the future. That's sort of the um, formula that Gundam's done recently, right? Like if you look at the first season of IBO, that wraps up completely. If you look at the first season of 00, that wraps up completely. And then whatever happened from there, you get the effects of. So, you know, I don't know. They love money. So I imagine we'll see more at some point. But if not, I'm super happy with what we got, and I'm glad that I got to spend my time with it. So 10 out of 10 for me.
Right on. 2 9s and a 10. And that wraps up our spring review. What a powerhouse season this was. And if you have made this far and you want to support us, the best way to do so, like, comment, subscribe, leave a review on whatever platform you are watching and or listening to us on. Next week will be Watch Club for Golden Boy. Otherwise, if you're here for some more seasonal content in 2 weeks, we will be giving our summer first impressions. I want to say thank you, and we will see you next time.
Peace.
Peace.